Yeah. So for people who couldn't like foresee this, this pandemic, they were like really hit by the whole situation, and they faced a really faced a really tough time with not saving and not investing enough. So, what would you say for people who try to live in the moment?
Right. I mean, yes, like you rightly mentioned, it does happen with youngsters that, I mean, I won't call myself an old person, but I have been there that I have lived in the moment. They have the concept of YOLO, we only live once and all. I mean, that's all great. I mean, I'm definitely not saying that stop spending your money at all and become a miser. That won't be the right approach. And neither am I saying that splurge your money. These are two ends of the spectrum, and one should seek a balance or try to seek a balance and remain in the middle. So, I mean, like I said, one important thing in that I believe is building good habits or building constructive habits. And one such habit which I always ask my students to build through my course is that the habit of delayed gratification. So, just to quickly, briefly talk about what delayed gratification is. So, firstly, gratification means a sense of pleasure or a sense of happiness which you get from doing something. So, by making some purchase on Amazon or by ordering some food from Zomato, let's say you order a pizza from Zomato, then obviously you will feel happy that I'll get to have a delicacy and you will feel gratified. Now, in these days of increased consumerism, like you said, that a lot of youngsters are into a spending first approach, that rather than saving first, they are into spending their money first. And partly, I believe it has to do with a constant bombarding of ads, which is being done to us through various forms, be it on television or be it through your mobile phones. And that basically drives a lot of our financial decision making. So one hack which I have applied to overcome this, I mean, so I'm sure everyone here must have Zomato and Swiggy included on their phones, and so I have once done this experiment recently, and I counted the number of times Zomato sends daily notifications to their customers, and in a day, I was surprised that from the morning, from breakfast time to the lunch to evening and to dinner, there were 4 to 6 notifications on a daily basis, which Zomato was sending to lure me to come onto their application. And once you get the hook and once you hook the user onto your application, uh, a lot of times it happens that, let's say, 100 people are using your application and you are able to manage to get a few of them onto your service through the means of these notifications. A lot of times they happen to make a purchase and drive sales for your organization. So one simple hack which I did in this case is that I simply turned off the notifications for Zomato. I mean, it might sound very intuitive and obvious, but rarely people do this and rarely people pay heed to this. But if you are able to delay your gratification, if you're able to delay your happiness or the sense of getting a reward for a better reward in the future, then it can be a great habit and it can help you a lot in building your wealth. A very simple example, since everyone is a college student here, is that a lot of times for your exams, you might be studying at the last moment, and in that 11th hour of studies, I mean, I remember from my days of engineering, I could not sit for long hours and study. I simply had a lot of distractions, be it either going on Netflix and watching some series or going out with my friends and all. So these are all sources of gratification or sources of distraction, because पढ़ के तो इतना खुशी नहीं मिलता जितना Netflix देखने से मिलता है. But if you are able to delay the gratification, if you are able to focus on the task at hand and complete the chapter or complete the preparation for the test or whatever it was, then the bigger reward for you in the future is not only that you will perhaps score better marks, but once you have completed your preparation for that test, then you can reward yourself with an episode of that series, or you can reward yourself with a coffee with your friend or something like that. So yearning for a better reward in the future and working in the present is something which you can build. I mean, obviously, it won't be easy to change a habit, but with time, it can definitely happen.
What's your take on this? On prioritizing our needs and, delaying, I mean.
There is one book by the name The Richest Man in Babylon. It's, I guess, 100 pages long. It's really fun. It's like a story that I would recommend all the students present here to read. And the first chapter in that story tells, pay yourself first. What does that mean is, as soon as you get your salary, your source of income, first put investment aside. Then you use the rest for your needs and your wants. What other people do is they first fulfill the needs, then they expand their wants so much that there is nothing left for investment. So they invest at the last moment, whereas the author says to invest first. That's the first way that I do. So my approach is, whenever my salary is credited, I invest, I guess, 50%. That's not for everyone, but I invest around 50-60% of my salary, and the rest is what I spend. So a good fraction for like a typical audience, a good thumb rule is 50-30-20. 50 is for your needs, 30 is for your wants, and 20 is for your investments. And as soon as you get your amount, put 20 investment first. So on 31st of a month, when you get your salary or something, first take 20% of that and invest them in a tool, in a SIP or in something. Just put them away. It should not even reflect in your bank account. And trust me on this, when you, like, it's not about getting more money. It's about living with the money you have. So if people are unhappy with 100 rupees, they'll be unhappy with 200 rupees. How? Because they'll just follow lifestyle inflation. So today they want like a coffee of 100 rupees. Tomorrow they'll want a coffee of 200 rupees. So they'll still end up with 0 rupees in the bank account, even though their salary has doubled. So this is lifestyle inflation. So people keep spending more and more as they keep earning. So if you have a normal phone, like a Chinese brand phone today, tomorrow you get a higher salary, the first thing you'll buy is an Apple iPhone. Just because you feel that it's something that I really need. So just 50-30-20 is something that you should follow. And an additional like pro level tip to that is, when you get an increment over that, over the salary, you split that in the opposite way. So for example, if you are getting 100 rupees, you are keeping 50 in your needs, 30 in your wants, and 20 in your desires, 20 in your investments. My bad. 50 in needs, 30 in wants, and 20 in your investments. Now you get 10 rupees extra. That is your bonus or something. What you do is you divide this 10 into 5 plus 3 plus 2, and you put that 5 into investments. So now your investment is 25. Your wants become, give the 3 to wants, they become 33, and your needs only become 52. So the needs only got 2 rupees extra, whereas investment got 5 rupees extra. So this is a good thumb rule for people to segregate their income. This will prevent you from not investing. So people spend all their money, splurge in their money, and then left with nothing. So they say, we don't have money to invest. So invest first. How to invest? Use this thumb rule. Next thing is, you have to be minimalistic. If you keep wanting more things, you'll never be satisfied. Greed can never be satisfied. Like there is some quote in a holy book or something. I'm not preaching religious context, but just focus on the content. So there is enough for everyone's need, but there will never be enough for anyone's greed. So if you just focus on what you really need, do you really need that new phone? Do you really need that extra piece of chocolate or something? Do you really need that? And when you ask yourself that question, you'll be getting a value in return. Okay, so for me, the value of this extra phone means I'll be able to record better videos. I'll be able to have better time with my friends. And then your own mind will give you right answers. And then you weigh the cost of getting this thing. Now you are thinking logically, not impulsively. You have the need for that item, and you have the cost of that item. Now you can compare. When you don't ask yourself why you need that, your need will be really high. So suppose if you are so that FOMO kicks in, that YOLO kicks in, that okay, I just want to live today. Like the value of getting an extra dessert of ice cream looks really well until unless you think, if I have this extra ice cream, will I feel good or will I feel bad after 15 minutes that I'll gain weight? Just asking you, just stopping for 5 seconds and asking yourself will give you the right answer. And it's okay to splurge as long as you see the value in it. So what I spend in, so I believe getting a new monitor, getting a new keyboard can help me be more productive. Buying that additional diary can help me note down my things better and give me mental peace. Or buying a toy for sales, like buying things for gaming, can give me relaxation on my downtime. That's a good investment. You don't have to beat yourself for entertaining, for being happy, as long as you can justify the returns on it. And the delayed gratification things comes when you uh, think for 5 seconds. I believe everyone is logical, everyone is sensible. They just are, let's say, hypnotized for 5 seconds or so. If you just take a step back, everyone is wise. Like I think Akhilesh and my knowledge, no one has taught us things. We just, both of us have introspected, observed, listened to a lot of good people, and hence we have this knowledge. We are not much older than you guys. We were in your shoes a couple of years back. So this is how we develop. This is not something that is so complicated. I believe everyone has the answers as long as you can listen to your own self. Just listen to your own self. You'll have the answer if you want to buy it or not. And I believe in actually treating yourself well. So that 20%, like that 30% is there. 50% is for need, 30% is for wants. Spend that 30%. Make sure that you spend 30% of that amount. Don't be super measure that you save that 30 also. If you think, okay, I have earned 100 rupees, 50 I put in my needs, 30 is for my wants. Make sure you enjoy your wants. That's really important for good saving habits. Because you're happy when you're like, if you are not happy, if you're super sad, you're saving 100% of your money, you're living super below your means, you're having really bad life. What's the point? If you have a lot of money in your bank and you die the next day in a car accident, what was the point? So just enjoy your money as well and be sensible to save some amount so that later you can enjoy bigger things. Because buying a car of 40 lakh rupees, you can never buy a car in a single day. You can only buy that Mercedes when you save, let's say, 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees a month or 1 lakh, something amount consistently, then you'll be able to buy it. And trust me on this, saving like what you would have got with that 1 lakh rupees an extra month, maybe a new iPhone, maybe you would have spent that in an extra club party or something. That small sacrifice, when you get a new Mercedes with that sacrifice, the kind of gratification that that single Mercedes will give you will be more than the sum of all these smaller gratifications. So sigma xi will be less than delta overall x. Over to you.
We often usually hear the phrase, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer. Do you actually think it's true? And do you think that it happens because the poor don't really have enough money to invest?
Are you taking it? Are you?
Yeah, I think both of us can answer it well. Let's just take
Sure.
turns on it. So the rich keep getting richer because they buy assets. The poor keep getting poorer because they buy liabilities. Single line answer. That's the brutal truth I have observed throughout my life. So what are assets? Assets are things that put money back into your account, that earn you money. Liabilities are things that don't earn you money, actually cost you money. A mobile phone is typically a liability because the cost of buying it, then putting maintenance on it, if it breaks and everything, it's a liability. Whereas if you invest in something or if you buy a new laptop that you can use to freelance, that's an asset. That's a basic idea. That's step one. The second thing is, rich people own uh, products, so to say, of value, whereas poor people have money. So let me just explain. Suppose there are 100 apples in the market and I own all the apples, whereas you and Akhilesh and all the participants have 10 rupees each. Okay, now all of you want to buy one apple from me. So the current price of apple, let's say, is 10 rupees. Now tomorrow, suppose the government wants to help some people and they end up printing more money. What they do is they print 2x the number of money. So earlier, let's say there were 100 notes of 10 rupees. Now there are 200 notes of 10 rupees. But there are still 100 apples that I own. So what will happen to the price of my apples? They'll become 2x. So my value doubles when government prints money. Whereas the value of the 10 rupee note you had halves when government prints money. It's oversimplified case, but that's how printing of money affects the poor people. They think that they are benefiting. So suppose your money is all gone. You have 0 rupees of money. Now government will come to you, okay, Nishka, we printed 10 rupees note. Here, take this note. So you feel, okay, I come from 0 to 10 rupees. What they have actually done is, they have diluted the value of all the 10 rupee notes in the country and given a small share to you. So though you have benefited for the moment, everyone else in the country has lost who have possessed that money. And now that everyone's money's value is diluted, my goods are more expensive. Hence, you'll be giving that 10 rupees to me quickly. So this is like one case study. So whenever this inflation comes, the average salaries rise by 15%, 10%, whereas these salaries of CEOs rise by 35%, 60%, 100%, because these people actually monetize them. So if the inflation, so inflation for India in this January month is 6%. But what you'll observe in some days is the prices of goods will increase by 10%. And what they'll tell you is, we are increasing the cost because of the supply getting expensive. But the reality is they're actually earning 4% extra. So inflation actually benefits the businesses. Hence, the rich keep getting richer. That's point 2. The third point is, rich don't shy to talk about money. They can have conversations about money over a dinner table. That's what Akhilesh is trying to bring through his startup. The conversations about money are frowned upon in middle or lower middle class families. They would prefer to say that money is the source of all evil. Money will make you greedy and stuff like that. And those same people will then crave for money. They'll dream money. They'll think about how we can earn more money. So money is not something bad. It's not the source of evil. It only multiplies and amplifies what you are. If you are a good person, you can utilize the same money to change the face of entire country. That is what Ratan Tata has done. If you are an evil person, if you can utilize the same money to create another Taliban. Money is a tool. Money is not something good or something bad. It's just a tool that only shows what you really are. That's the third thing. Talk about money. It's all right. Next, the fourth thing, why the rich keep, this is the last one, why the rich keep getting richer and the poor stay poor or even get poorer when with money. So the poor people, there is a concept of poor people has this disadvantage over other people. So what they'll do is, if you are poor, you can buy goods that are cheaper. You'll buy cheaper food. You'll buy cheaper health products. You'll buy cheaper medicine. You'll go to cheaper doctors. What that will do is, because you had less money, you consumed inferior quality products and services. That will lead to long-term consequences. So these poor people will end up eating unhealthy food. Then they'll end up getting fat. When they'll end up getting fat, they'll be able to work less. And then they'll have to pay huge sums of money to get healthy. So it's again a cycle in which the poor keep getting poorer. Whereas the richer people, they can afford good quality product and all these services. So they stay healthy and productive and hence keep growing. So the richer are already above poorer, and poorer keep going down and the richer are going up. The solution, I've talked about 4 problems. The last closing remark, the solution for this is the poor people have to start something of their own. That's the only way out. I don't want to give you 5 solutions, do this, do that. The only way to escape poverty is to start something of your own. It can be freelancing, it can be a business, like a startup or something like that. If you are a business owner, you come in the leagues of the big guys, the rich people. Then when things get expensive, you get the benefit. Then when the government starts printing more money, you know how to leverage it. So don't be miserable. Don't try to get the sympathy out of people. You have to take the plunge. You have to build something of your own. That's my 2 cents.
Great. I mean, he has covered all the aspects, perhaps, and has given a robust response. Just to add my views on the same is that yes, even I feel that the disparity between the rich and poor is increasing. And the first point which he mentioned, that the rich people buy assets and the poor people are stuck with liabilities, is I can resonate it very strongly. And I mean, to all our audience out here, I will definitely recommend reading the book Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki if you haven't already. It is one of the great books which is recommended for youngsters to get them introduced with the concept of managing their money. And coming back to the question, I believe one primary reason behind this increasing disparity is that there is a lack of awareness between lower income earners as to how they can manage their savings or how they can grow their wealth. And another personal example which I would like to give is that one of the domestic help which comes at our house, she was telling her plight to my family the other day on how she took out a loan from not from a bank or not from a registered institution, but rather from a local middleman. And the thing is that poor people are not aware about the opportunities available out there for them. And when they take out a loan or when they borrow money from someone like a middleman or someone like a small player who is not even a registered entity, there is very little that they can do, and in turn they end up paying a lot more than they borrowed. So a part of it is, like I said, the awareness among them is very low, and what we as middle class people can do is that educate them in our capacity, and try to bridge this gap by trying to help them in whatever way we can, either by introducing them to different schemes of the bank where they can invest their money, or helping them open an account in, let's say, a public provident fund, or there are various schemes of the post office wherein they can avail benefits and they can grow their saved wealth. And whenever they have to borrow money, let's say, rather than having to go to a bank, if we are able to provide it at a minimal or low interest rate, we should encourage that, because while it may not help us financially, it can definitely help them a lot in elevating their standards of living, or in maintaining the same one at least which they are living right now.
The 2 books we have both of have talked about, they are always at my desk, so I brought them here. This is the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It's super thin. Like, I read it in an afternoon. So it's super thin. It's like a story of a person who is visiting Babylon for the first time. And through the story, you learn almost everything about finance that is bare fundamental. And the second book he talked about is this book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. This is slightly thicker, but this guy has covered concepts of accounting that are necessary to understand finance and to understand different assets. So it's slightly on the, let's say, more detailed version. It has more content in it. It has more depth in it. But the first book I would recommend everyone to read, because I was not a reader, and I believe reading is not something most students love to do, is to start with this book. This book is something that can be the first book you read about personal finance, and it will, trust me on this, it will change the mindset uh, of every student. And to actually emphasize how much I care about you guys reading this book, I want to go out of my way and say that I'll be giving back 5 of these books. This is not a paid promotion, something. This is just I want to do something. So I will be giving, because I have made some money in my life. So I'll be giving these 5 books to 5 people who will be writing a post on LinkedIn or something on social media about this session, and I'll be selecting some of them and then sending these books to them. And I hope these books help them. For That's what I really want to do. I hope it's possible.
Oh yeah, of course. I think that's really nice of you. I hope you guys heard that, by the way. And also, we're open to audience questions. So if you guys have any queries, you can just type it in the chat box, or you can ask them right away. You can unmute your mics. So if anybody has any questions. All right. Can we move on to the taxes topic? Can we talk a little bit about taxes? And people usually think it's a burden. So, is it really a burden, or is it necessary for the government to function in our country?
I pay a
I mean,
lot
yes,
of it, and I hate it every March when I pay it. But it's a necessary evil in my opinion. Go ahead, Akhilesh.
right. He rightly said, it is necessary. And like Benjamin Franklin has said that the only certain thing in this world is death and taxes. So I believe, I mean, the government has to function. Roads are not going to build themselves. Schools are not going to fund themselves. People have to pay taxes, and like what 2% or even less than that of the Indian population pays taxes actually. So we cannot blame the government for everything when the government is not even getting any adequate revenue. We cannot put all the blame on them. So yes, I mean taxes are necessary, but as a individual, it hurts when you pay taxes, and the only way you can do is to avoid paying taxes legally. And again, like I said, there are ways to do that. One very basic way is that if you are a salaried person, you get certain rebates, you get certain opportunities in different sections, by which you can save taxes by investing in different instruments or by investing in a life insurance or something like that. Another accommodation which is available for salaried people is something called as a section 80C, under which if your income is, let's say, X amount of rupees, you can, like, if you are above, there are basically 2 tax slabs in India. I won't go into detail on that, but under this section 80C, you can basically save around, like, you can invest 150,000 a year in mutual funds or in schemes which are allowed within that section, be it a provident fund or be it a equity linked saving scheme, etc. I mean, there are a lot of details available on that online. So, like I said, the only thing which we can do is that whichever category you fall into, be it you are a salaried person or you are a business person, there are ways through which you can save tax legally. And the opportunities for people who run their own ventures or people who run their own business, um, from my understanding, there are a lot more opportunities to save taxes and get you can say, tax deductions is available as compared to a salaried person. That is why the middle class suffers, or the income earners suffer the most, because there is very little you can do in your own capacity. But when you run your own business, you can show certain things, like you can show expenses under your business's name and reduce the taxes which you can end up paying. So, I mean, if possible, we can go into the details of that, but I will hand over to Ayush.
I guess someone is watching reels in the middle of the session. All right. So I believe the best way to save taxes is to start a business. I guess Akhilesh is an entrepreneur, and I too am an entrepreneur. So we both will be advocating starting a business. So I was talking about how we can save taxes. So the businesses pay taxes on the profits, not on the earnings. So if you have 100 rupees in earnings and you show that you spend all of the 100 rupees in R&D or in company expenses, in improving infrastructure or in paying salaries, you actually pay 0 rupees of tax because your profit was zero. So if you are owning a business, so what you can do is, okay, this company earned 100 rupees of money. From that, 10 rupees was the salary of Ayu and 90 rupees was other expense. So 10 rupees was salary of Ayu. So since the company has spent all his money, all their money, company pays 0 rupees of tax. Ayu pays tax on his salary based on his slab. Or if you are the CEO or CXO, what you can show is if you're traveling somewhere, you can show that the travel of the CEO from this place to that place was a business expense, not Ayu's personal expense. Hence, that business expense comes under the business's balance sheet and you don't have to pay taxes on it. So there are ways to legally save taxes. Taxes are majorly saved by business owners or by people having salaries under, let's say, 8 lakh rupees or something. Those people majorly save taxes because they can use the salaries. People can use ATC deductions and these life insurance deductions that Akhilesh were talking about.
So, just continuing on the topic of taxes, I will like to add a few points and talk about a broader picture so that apart from personal finance, we know how the central government and the central bank they shape the monetary policy in India and how they have certain tools to control inflation, like I had displayed in the very first point. And while it is not directly related to how you can manage your money, but knowing about these things is definitely important, because when you read in the news things like that the RBI has increased their interest rate or the RBI has decreased the repo rate, these types of news or these sort of news, they reflect in the investments, be it in the stock market or be it in any alternative investments which you might have made. So knowing about these things can definitely help, and I'm going to speak about that for a while now. So basically, there are 2 or 3 tools at the disposal of the government and at the disposal of the RBI, which they can use, and by implementing which they can increase the money supply in the economy or decrease the money supply in the economy, thus increasing or decreasing inflation. Now, inflation, like we had discussed, is the increase in prices of things. Inflation means महंगाई, and while inflation or price increase is not good for the end consumers, for users like you and me, because we have to bear the brunt of the increased prices. Like the other panelists had said, inflation is good for businesses, and overall, when inflation is in control, it is good for the economy. So inflation and economic growth go hand in hand, and seeking a balance between these is what the central government and the central bank try to do. So there is something called as a cash reserve ratio and a statutory liquidity ratio. Now these might sound very fancy terms, but once I explain them, they are very easy to understand. So let's take an example of a bank, any private bank, for instance, HDFC, ICICI. Now in each bank, people like you and me, that is the general public, they make deposits, and we save our money in the savings account or the current account in that bank. Apart from public, there are private institutions or private companies who make deposits into these banks. So a bank can get its money from either the public, like the general masses, or the private companies, and collectively they store all of our funds. Now, when a bank stores money for people like you and me, it becomes a liability on their end, because the bank has to pay some interest on the saved money on the savings account. So जब उन्हें पैसा देना पड़ता है, that is a bad thing for them. It is a liability. And what is an asset for a bank? Giving out loans is an asset for a bank, because when they give out loans in the form of home loan or a car loan or anything, they not only get the loan amount back, but they also charge some hefty interest on that loan. So a loan becomes an asset for the bank. So the topic which I was talking about was cash reserve ratio and statutory liquidity ratio. Now let us say Lex Bank or HDFC Bank in your city, it has 100 crores in deposits from the general public and from some companies around your area. So in all, the total number of deposits in that HDFC Bank is 100 crore. Now, can HDFC Bank give out all the 100 crore as loans to its loan customers? So the answer is no. The RBI requires that HDFC Bank keep some liquidity in their branch, so that when the general masses require money, they can withdraw it at any time. So जब भी आप बैंक में पैसा स्टोर करते हो, you can withdraw it anytime. That is, you have the liquidity, you have the option to get the money on demand. But it's, you have stored lakhs and lakhs of rupees, and if you withdraw all of it in one go, the bank may not allow you to do that, because there are certain restrictions on how much you can withdraw at a given point in time. So there is a term called as net demand and time liabilities. That is, it is the sum of all the demand and time liabilities that the bank has. Now, what are demand liabilities? It is the money which is stored in the savings account or the current account. That is on demand, the money which might be required by the customers is the demand liability for the bank. It is mandatory for the bank to provide its customers with this money as and when required. And what is a time liability? It is something like a fixed deposit. You might have heard of the term FD or a fixed deposit, wherein your parents might have invested money. So when you invest your money in a fixed deposit, you cannot withdraw it at any point in time. There might be a penalty associated with it, or you might not get the same benefits for withdrawing it early. So a fixed deposit is a time liability because you can only withdraw it after a certain period of time. So a sum total of these net and time liabilities forms the NDTL, or the net demand and time liabilities. So let us say that 100 crores is the net demand and time liabilities for HDFC Bank. Now from this, 4% or 4 crores is something which HDFC Bank has to keep aside in its lockers. हर बैंक में vaults होते हैं. If you have watched Money Heist, you might know that every bank has some vaults and there is cash in those vaults. So 4% is mandated by RBI. 4% of all the money in that particular bank has to be kept aside as cash or cash equivalents. So उस 4% पे the bank keeps it in physical cash. That 4 crores or 4% the bank cannot give out as loans. And of the remaining 96 crores or the 96%, again some amount is kept aside in statutory liquidity ratio, or it is given to the RBI by the bank to be invested in liquid assets, that is government securities or government bonds. So out of the total 100 crore which the bank might have, the bank is only left with 76.5 crores, which it can give out in the form of loans. Now you might ask, how does this affect inflation and how does it affect the economic growth? So when there is cash reserve ratio, the 4% which we talked about, if the RBI increases or decreases this ratio, then it can affect the rates at which the banks provide loans to their customers. Like I said, currently the ratio is 4%. That is, of 100 crores, 4 crores is kept aside as a cash equivalent. If the RBI in 1990, this same was 15%. That is, 15% of whatever the bank had to be kept aside in physical form or cash equivalents. So जब cash reserve ratio ही ज़्यादा होता है, so the bank has little money to give as loan to its customers, and if they want to maintain their profit margins, they have to give away loans at a higher interest rate. So if the loans are available at a higher interest rate, it will discourage end consumers to take on more loans, and it will reduce the money supply in the economy. So जब demand ही नहीं होगी पैसे की, then the prices will drop, and in turn the economic growth will also slow down, because people won't buy houses, people won't buy fancy cars, and overall the money in the economy will reduce. Now, as opposed to this, like I said, in 1990, the cash reserve ratio was 15%. Today it is at 4%. So जब cash reserve ratio reduces, the banks have more money which they can loan out to customers. Or जब they have more money, they can reduce the interest rate on these loans and does encourage the customers to get more and more loans in the form of home loans or car loans, etc. And once the loan interest rate decreases, the money supply increases because people then go out and buy homes, people go out and buy cars, and the supply increases in the economy. And this in turn produces a good feedback loop and the economic growth happens. So inflation is required to maintain economic growth, and it is often known as the monetary policy dilemma, that seeking a balance between a perfect inflation rate and a perfect economic growth has to be done, and that's what the RBI and the central government tries to do. But that is one of the key roles which, or the key metrics or the key tools which the central government and the central bank has.
All right. Thank you for explaining it in such a simple way. I mean, yes, when you actually started it out, even I was like, oh, this seems complicated. But as in when you tried to explain it, it was really simple. Yeah, so I think we've come to end of this session. So thank you so much for being here with us. I'd like to thank Project Lab, all the core members for helping us and guiding us. Thank to like the panelists, for being here and like enlightening us, making this an interactive session. And lastly, thank you for all the audience. So yeah, have a great evening, guys. Any questions? All right, then I'll take that as a no.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, all the best. Thank you.
It was a very wonderful session, Akhilesh.